Imagine looking into the mirror and not recognizing your own face or hearing a diagnosis of multiple personality disorder. Tonight's Inside Story, saving Sarah. Sarah looks like any other 22-year-old student on campus. No outward signs of the jagged journey it took her to get here.
They told me that I would never graduate. I'd never finish my undergrad degree. They told me that I would probably be in and out of hospitals. No friends, no social life, no partners.
They are the psychiatrists in the institution where Sarah was just 2 years ago committed.
I was in the high security ward, surrounded by people who are screaming and yelling. It's a mixed gender ward, so you're being sexually harassed by men who are having mental health problems. People are forcibly injected, there's isolation rooms.
Sarah says her descent began partway through her undergrad degree.
I'd have these blackout periods where I just hours would disappear and I wouldn't know where I'd gone or what I was doing. The first time I realized I'd had a memory gap, I was terrified. I thought, oh my God, do I have a brain tumor? I went in, I had MRIs done, I had all these tests done, and there was no physical evidence of trauma in the brain.
And in those blackout moments, Sarah would hurt herself in the most terrible of ways.
I don't actually remember doing it. My chest was gaping open, maybe 4 inches.
One day, Sarah showed up for class with a massive gash to her head.
A doctor at U of T committed me. I came in with 7 fresh stitches in my head, and she kind of took one look at me and she's like, oh, we're just gonna walk across campus. I was in the emergency admittance, and essentially they arrest you under the Mental Health Act.
And what were you diagnosed with?
A little bit of everything. I think my official on-paper diagnosis was psychosis NOS, which just means not otherwise specified.
And the blackouts? That's multiple personality disorder, now known medically as dissociation.
Things like depersonalization, so not recognizing your face in the mirror, I would have that. Not recognizing faces of family and friends and loved ones.
For weeks, Sarah underwent treatment before being stabilized and eventually released from hospital.
I left the hospital and it was a very rocky year. Even after that, I'd missed all of my exams.
And then the moment that changed Sarah's life.
I was just walking up through Kensington Market. I was feeling totally miserable and sorry for myself. I looked over and there's this big glass-walled building and I could see people working inside, and I was like, what is this place?
The bandages that heal in the most unlikely of ways and the most unusual of places.
I'd never been in a space that welcoming and safe and friendly, which sounds kind of backwards because you're in a gym where you're basically punching each other and kicking each other all day.
A chance encounter with the combat sport of Muay Thai helped Sarah take the word committed out of the psych ward and into the ring.
I went for my first class and I went every day that week. I think that physically exhausting myself was a really key part of keeping my mind at a manageable level.
In less than 1 year, using her fists, shins, knees, elbows, and feet as weapons, Sarah becomes a champion.
You go into the ring and you fully believe that you're invincible and immortal and made of stone, and but if you drop your hand for a second, you can catch a right hook and you can be down and not even know that you've lost the fight.
You are looking at the 2013 Ladies Novice Featherweight Champion of North America.
It was surreal. All hours and hours and hours every day of training for months and months and weeks on end, just going towards this goal.
This is obviously not for everyone, but Sarah says the very mental illnesses that kept her locked up have now been harnessed to set her free.
For me, my psychiatric problems, so to speak, they're not problems. They are a really integral part of me. And quite frankly, they're honestly what make me successful. I can focus totally on one thing. If you take that to an extreme, you could call that dissociation. But if I rein that back, I'm able to devote myself entirely to a single task.
1, 2.
And that task now has a global goal.
I want to be a world champion. I know I can do it too. It just takes time.
Glad to see her finding an outlet and something she can believe in and take part in. That's excellent news.
And I think there will be people who will be surprised that somebody who had suffered such serious mental illnesses could be so well with something like Muay Thai. It is also the community. But because if you're a black belt in karate, you know the spiritual and the emotional side of this sport as well.
It requires tremendous concentration and exertion. It's you have to be totally focused doing it. And I think this is really helpful for her, and I'm glad to see it.
And she's a great great spokesperson for someone who suffers a mental illness, who's living with a mental illness, and who also is doing great things. She graduates in June, by the way.
Good stuff.
Yep, you can reach out to me on Twitter @CityAvery.
And the Inside Story, as you know, runs every Tuesday and Thursday on City News. All segments are up on our website, citynews.ca.